So, you know, with Jill, I'm interviewing everybody individually, not just about Italy, but like growing up in Leamington, and that's what you did. You were born there. So I always get everyone to start by saying, "What's your name?"
Della.
Where are your? So tell me your name in the order that you're in, like where you were born and all that.
I'm Della, and I'm the youngest of 10 children. I was born in Leamington. I guess we were living in Wheatley when I was born, but I don't have any memory of that at all. We moved to Leamington, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, maybe. A lot of my memories are with my grandma, because mom and dad worked all the time, so I spent most of my time with grandma. But I do remember a lot of Sundays where the whole family was there, or mom and dad were all about hospitality and welcome and food, pretty much.
Yeah.
So Sundays there was always people in the house, or we were always going somewhere to visit people, or they were all about generosity. They would share everything they had, and they didn't have a lot, but I think they always felt that they were very rich in many ways. Because by the time I was 6 or 7, everybody was married except for Angelo, John, and Vic. But everybody was, like Clara was married. I was 10 months old when Clara got married, and I was 14 months old when Larry got married. 2 months old when I became an aunt. So yeah, it was always, one of my memories with your dad was he used to give me a quarter every time I would scratch his back. I remember that very vividly.
Yeah.
But like I said, I spent most of my time with my grandma because mom and dad worked all the time. So she pretty much raised me. I remember at 7 or 8 years old, I would walk with her next door to the beer store, and I'd fill out the little forms for her so she could get her beer. So I was probably the only 7-year-old in the
LCBO.
In the LCBO, yeah.
That's funny.
I remember a lot of, we had like a street gang, all the kids in the neighborhood and stuff. We would be out from morning till night, and there was a playground down the street. We spend most of our time down at the playground, and just like, I guess it's so different. I mean, it's so different today. You walk around the neighborhoods now, and there's not a kid outside, and it's so sad. But I had really, really good memories of the Erie Street Gang and going trick-or-treating together and spending days at the playground and just riding our bikes around the neighborhood. We'd have to worry about anybody kidnapping us or.
What did you make of your Italianness? Like, how did that start to become real to you as you were getting older, growing up?
It certainly was. When I was at school, I remember having like mortadella sandwiches and salami sandwiches. Everybody had peanut butter and jelly, and I mean there were a lot of Italian heritage kids, but you stood out for sure. PTA meetings, I remember, all the moms would bring like cookies and squares and stuff, and mom would bring a big thing of pizza, like with 50 pieces of pizza. It's like, oh my god. And just, I think there was kind of a pride, of being Italian, and I know that when my family came, I remember Rita saying that they were really bullied and they were really, made fun of and stuff. I think by the time I got to school, that had kind of leveled out, and.
Thank you.
Cayenne, no tomato.
Thank you.
They're huge.
Oh my goodness, I know. Wow.
But certainly, there was that sense of pride that came from my parents that they were Italian, and that they were very proud of that. Mm-hmm. And it was, you saw it in the food, in their friends, and people that they hung out with. There was just, it was all about family. It was all about, just being together, and. I don't remember learning a lot about their life in Italy as I was growing up. I more now that, when we sit around and reminisce and And I think, like your generation was more interested in learning about that heritage, and I learned it that way, you know. But I mean, they certainly were proud to be Italian.
And do you speak the language?
You know what? I spoke it a lot more when Dad was alive, because he didn't speak English, obviously. But since Dad passed away, I've lost a lot. I can still understand everything. I know what they're saying, but I really have to think about it when I want to speak it. Mm-hmm. I think if I went, you know, for a few weeks to Italy, I'd pick it right back up again. But I mean, you don't use it. You don't speak it, right?
Right. So you mostly experienced your siblings as adults in some ways. Well, tell me a little bit about your impressions of Larry and Clara. Like break it down a little bit. Like, what was Larry like?
I spent a lot of time at Larry's because Paula and Bob and I were friends. I mean, there was only a couple of years between us.
Forgot that.
2.5 years with Bob and 3.5 years with Paula. So he was a very
And watch the sound. I want the paper crinkling.
oh, sorry. He was very very strict. But I mean, so generous and so welcoming. Like, we did a lot of family gatherings at their place, so they were very welcoming too. But he laid the law down, and when we were together, he would always yell at us because we were making too much noise, but just a really kind, good-hearted person, and would give you the shirt off his back. Clara, I didn't really know very well because I was 10 months old when she got married. And she lived in Sarnia, so I saw her maybe a couple of times a year, 2 or 3 times a year. I did spend a summer there when I was in college. We got a grant for like a day program for people with disabilities, and it was based in Sarnia, so I lived with Clara for the summer. So I got to know her a little bit more then, but she always felt more like a mother to me than a sister because she was so much older. She was 20 years older than I am. So, but any time I spent with her, I mean, she was like mom. She was, she would give you anything she had. She loved having people over. She loved cooking. She was very much like mom. And I think I'm a lot like my mom too.
Yeah, describe Grandma.
Grandma?
Your mom.
Grandma had a hard life. And I think she loved nothing more than having her family with her. That was her lifeline. That was her pride and joy. But she worked hard. And besides, working hard and working long hours, she had kids to take care of. And of course, at that time, men did nothing in that sense, And I think she struggled with Dad sometimes. But she loved nothing more than having her family there. She loved her grandkids to pieces. I mean, you'd think they're the only ones who existed. Or she's the only one who had grandchildren.
And we always felt like her favorite.
Always. I remember you saying that at her funeral. We all thought we were her favorite. Mm-hmm. And she made you feel that way. Mm-hmm. She was. She had the ability to put together a meal for 15 people in like 15 minutes. She was hospitality plus. And I think I got that from her. I remember at her funeral, all the people that I lived with at L'Arche were there. And they said that after what you said about Grandma, what you said about her, they understood me a lot better. So I think I'm a lot like my mom. Mm-hmm. I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we had our differences for sure. We had our issues, but
How old was she when you were born?
she was 49. I was born in 54. She was born in 1909. No, she was born in 1915. She was 39, sorry. Yeah, 39. And Dad was 45. Yeah.
elderly back then.
Yeah. She was pretty much always the oldest mom at the PTA meeting.
Now that's kind of standard to have your first kid in your late 30s.
That's true. But I mean, she already had 9 by the time I came along, so
What's the age difference, like the gap between you and Victor?
4.5 years. But 2.5 of those years, Mom and Dad were apart. Because Dad came in 51,
Right,
Mom came in 53, and I was born in 54.
right. Right on time. Maybe.
Yep.
Were you aware what that meant, to be born in Canada and everybody else not?
Not really. It just was what it was, you know. Sometimes I forget that they were all born in Italy.
Do you know Paul?
I don't have any memory of Paul. I was 3.5 when he died, so I have no memory of him at all. I was 3.5. He died in February 58, and I would have been 4 in 58 in November. So
When did you first start to understand what happened to him?
I always, growing up, I always knew that we had a brother that died in a hunting accident, but I never knew exactly how it happened. Probably till we were living on Ivan Street, so probably till my 30s or better. Yeah. So and I think I understood Larry a little bit better after I learned the details.
How come? Tell me.
Because of how it happened, and I think he carried that guilt for his whole life. But of course, nobody ever talks about stuff like that because you're a man and you should be able to handle it.
What's the version of the story that you know?
I know what I understand is that they were out hunting, and Larry wanted Paul's gun, and Paul didn't want to give it to him, and so they were fighting over the gun, and it went off. But Paul never ever mentioned his name, mentioned Larry's name. But so I think.
Who told you that version?
I don't remember who told me. I know I heard it from Uncle Pat, and I think maybe Frank might have said something. I'm not sure exactly who I heard it from first, but because it was Uncle Pat who bought the gun for Paul. So.
What was my dad like when he was young?
He was always the kind one, at least for me. Just a very kind heart, quieter than everybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was just a sweet guy. He didn't want to come to Canada. Sometimes I wonder how things would be if things had happened differently. But how old was he when they came here?
15.
Hard to leave a 15-year-old behind. I guess I understand I'm not leaving him there, but...
So after my dad is...
Frank? Frank is the family comedian. Remembers every detail of everything. Oh my God, like some of the details he remembers. I'm really grateful for that because I don't have a memory for details. I have a big picture memory, but he remembers things that happened and when they happened and how they happened, and he's the one that's probably taught me the most about like the family and the history and growing up and stuff. But yeah, and of course always the comedian. Loves to hear himself talk. I mean, you got to give him that. And just he has a sense of pride about his family, and sometimes it comes across as like my family is the only one that that has all these accomplishments and they're the best. But He loves his family, but always very entertaining.
And after Frank?
Probably Angelo. Did we get it? Yeah, Frank Angelo. Angelo, and I think Angelo and I I was probably closer to Angelo than anybody growing up.
Why?
And I'm not sure why, but I think just because of his personality, he's a very kind of easygoing kind of guy, and I was in his wedding, so that was part of. I mean, I was in a lot of weddings actually, but I think I was 15 when Angelo got married, 14 or 15, and yeah, I think just. And not that we, hung out, but there was just something that really drew me to Angelo, and and still, he's one of the ones that I visit pretty regularly, and he was just, he just lets things slide. He's easygoing, again, loves his family, and just, and he reminded me so much of Dad. He looks like Dad. He walks like him. He acts, it just.
I agree. He looks like the most like Grandpa. But he looks like a kind-faced Grandpa. Because Grandpa was grumpy looking, scary a little bit.
Yeah.
Lovely. Very good to us, but also like when he yelled, it was like, oh, fuck.
Don't make no trouble.
Yeah, don't make no trouble. Get out of there. Shut up. Yeah.
I think sometimes Dad felt like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just so much. I also think that when they had to give up the farm, I think I really did. I mean, he so much wanted to be a farmer. And he so much wanted to pass it down to his boys, but nobody was, at that point, they were all grown up. Nobody was interested. Nobody was interested in doing it.
Right, and he couldn't hire
He just
people.
couldn't keep up. No, he had no money to do that.
Right, so, I saw a picture of him with the motorcycle helmet. Was he kind of like in a gang or something? Or like,
He was like a hot rodder kind of thing. Pat's parents hated him. Absolutely hated him when she brought him around. He hung out at Louis' at the Sunoco station. It was on the corner of Erie and Seacliff. It was Louis Williams had it, and he spent his days there. Like he just wasn't really interested in school. And
did he work?
I don't know what he did. When he was younger, I mean, he did the construction. He opened the initial business with Victor, but he couldn't stand it. He needed to work with his hands. I don't know if he was working on cars before that. I'm not sure what I don't know what he was doing even when he got married. I don't know what work he was doing, but.
And when he left the business with Victor, what did he do?
He did Gabriel Home Improvement.
Okay.
Yeah, and now Aaron has it now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he always provided. He always worked. So, but yeah, it took a long time for Pat's parents to warm up to him, kind of. But he was kind of a free spirit and just
a hippie.
A little bit, yeah. More of a greaser. Like he had the leather jacket, and
So cute.
and the souped up cars and the convertible and stuff. It was like, whoa.
And then Rita.
Actually, Rita's older than Frank, or than Angela.
So she was 20 when you were born?
Yes. No, she was 10. There's 10 years difference.
Right.
Clara was 20.
That's right.
Yeah. Rita was my my ticket to get out of the house and do stuff because she always called me to babysit. So Rita and I have been very close right from the beginning. I spent tons of time there. Her kids are like my kids, and I babysat them a lot. But I also would go babysit and go out and do stuff. And so yeah, she helped me because she knew what it was like. Because she had to sneak out with Gino. She would bring Mamona with her, and then so she'd pick up Mamona and they'd go. And then my mom would say, well, drop me off at so-and-so's house, come pick me up in a couple hours. So she helped Rita sneak out. But, yeah, so, yeah, and then still to this day, I hang out with Rita a lot. We get together all the time. I love her dearly, and she's, and her kids are like my kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I always remember that. I always associate you with Pollyanna. It's like it's part of that whole scene.
yeah, yeah,
For sure. And always you and Rita being inseparable.
yeah, for sure.
And after Rita is Victor.
Vic and I fought all the time.
How come?
Because it wasn't my fault. My because I was Mamona's favorite, right? Victor was Mom's favorite.
Yes.
And I think part of that was because he looked so much like Paul. So I think there was that. So because of me and Vic, Mom and Grandma were always at Lockhorn's. But yeah, he was just mean to me. He isn't anymore, but
Yeah.
I love him still. But yeah, I think because we were so close, we were closer in age too. Went to school together and that kind of stuff. And yeah, we fought a lot. We did. We fought a lot. But I was in his wedding, so we made up and kissed and made up.
Yeah.
But Vic was a go-getter. I mean, seriously. And I had to follow him in high school, and he skipped out of school a lot. He hated school. And teachers would go up to him on Friday and say, "You made it the whole week. Way to go, Vic. Thank you very." So when I got to the high school and I said, Della Gabriel and Vic's sister, it's like, oh my God. So yeah.
Another delinquent.
I had to clean up his reputation a little bit. But I mean, look at him.
Didn't hurt him.
Didn't hurt him a bit. No.
He wanted to get out there and make
And
money.
he's such a he would give you the shirt off his back right now.
Yeah.
He'll help people, bend over backwards helping people.
Yeah.
And I think if it wasn't for Kathy, Vic wouldn't have what he has today because he would just give it all away.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
the brains of the
Yeah,
operation.
absolutely.
And the purse strings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need that balance.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Right.
For sure.
What are some of the best times that you can remember? Was it when I always think about the 70s, and the house on Ivan Street on Sundays,
that's
Christmas, Santa Claus, all that.
That's probably
to
my
me,
favorite.
That snapshot
Yeah.
was 10 years or whatever, between the ages of 5 and 15 for me.
Ivan Street was my favorite place that we were. Because, at that point, the family was growing and every Sunday people would come and, have lunch or whatever and just...
Smoke.
Yeah. And there was no room, but we would eat in shifts sometimes and everybody crowding into that little room at the front for Santa Claus.
Oh my God, it's so hot to throw the window open.
I know. And Mom and Dad were at their best then too. They were still very...
Spry,
very
healthy,
capable,
and
spry and healthy, and Mom could cook for everybody. And I remember times when some of the kids would bring friends with them, and 3 hours later, she noticed there was another kid. Who's that?
Yeah. No, we
Mommy's
would.
been here for 3 hours.
Exactly. Yeah, we would drag our friends there just to see it. Couldn't believe the
I still love Christmas, but there's something missing for sure.
Yeah. And it's Grandma.
Yeah.
She's missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we were lucky.
Very lucky. Yeah, Ivan Street was fun. Remember Santa Claus, Angelo coming every year. The one year I remember Richard saying, I don't know. He says, every time Santa comes, Angelo disappears. I don't know. So the next year, Angelo got a friend of his to do it. So Santa walks in and Richard's like, looks at Angelo and he looks at Santa Claus. And I remember Angelo used to run around the neighborhood. He had a red convertible. He'd have the top down. He'd have a Santa suit on, and he'd be driving through town. And he said the kids would just go crazy.
So funny.
Yeah. So I miss those days. I miss those days when everybody gathering together and dropping in. New Year's Day, she'd always have a big pot of chicken soup on.
Yep.
And everybody would come in shifts and in different stages of hangover. The chicken broth with just orzo or little balls.
Spits, yeah. I remember that. So good.
Mm-hmm. And she would just leave it on the stove all day simmering. And people would come in and eat their hangovers away.
Yeah, I remember that.
And sometimes, babysitting the kids. She would babysit the kids, so there'd be all kinds of... New Year's Eve especially, we'd babysit some of the kids. And Richard, one year, it was Richard, Paul, Frankie, and David. And they were so bad.
Yeah, they were.
I woke up and I had raw eggs in my bed. I had they stuck a cigarette up each nostril. Like, it was awful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They were the worst.
Those were the fun days.
Yeah, they were really crazy boys.
Or they go to the end of the street and they throw eggs at the cars.
Yep. Yeah. Or shake cans of pop and throw it at houses.
Yeah.
Explode on the side of the house or on the roof. Crazy.
What one didn't think of, the other ones did.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we used to play in the closet in your room. Remember that deep closet in your room?
Yes.
Get back there and play forts and wouldn't let us in. The girls couldn't play. It was only for boys. It was really
Good memories. Really good memories.
So when you think about, an hour-long story, say, cobbling all this together, really it's just going to be a handful of images and then audio underneath it. It's super simple. And it's going to be on YouTube forever, hopefully.
Oh, cool.
So it's really for everybody else after everybody dies, after I die.
Yeah.
It's for great grandkids to sort of be able to hit play and go like, this is where we came from. So when I think about that, I always ask people like, what do you want them to really know about us? You'll never meet some of them.
Yeah. When I think of my family, I think we're not perfect. We have our blemishes. We have our our disagreements, our fights. But when push comes to shove, we're there for each other. Yeah. And I think that's probably what I would want to remember the most. Is that I hear of families, they don't talk to each other for years. They don't. We've had our moments. We've had our times. But especially I think when Alan died, my family just rallied around me. And without a second thought, they were there. And when I got married, they were there. We always had each other's back, and I'll be forever grateful for that, forever.
And marriage wasn't necessarily on your path.
Hell no.
I remember you were going to become a nun. Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And again, they supported me all through that too, I really felt called to community, and I really thought that was going to be my path in life.
What?
Being a sister. And then I learned about L'Arche, and it had more of a draw for me. And so I left the sisters, and I thought I'm going to try.
How do you leave the sisters? Was it a process?
Well, I had made temporary vows, and then at some point you make final vows, and that's when you're. So I hadn't made final vows yet, so I was still in the discerning process.
How long does that take?
Well, I was there from 88 until 94, so 6 years I was there.
Yeah.
So usually you make temporary vows, and it's at least 3 years before you make final vows. So I was at that point where I was deciding whether I wanted to make final vows, and I just thought, I learned so much during those years. I have no regrets, not even for a second. But I thought I needed to try out L'Arche, and that L'Arche for me brought two phases of my life together: my faith, because they're faith-based communities, and my training with people with disabilities. So I don't know if you're really familiar with L'Arche, but they're faith-based communities for people with disabilities, but the people who support, like the people who help them and support them, also live in the home. So we live together in community, and it was life transforming for me. It was absolutely life transforming. And within a few months of being there, I knew that this was where I needed to be.
What was it?
What's that?
What was it that made that thing happen, that click?
I just, when I got there, I felt like I found home. It was just, I felt this place of belonging, this place of being who I am, and I think probably the people I live with in L'Arche probably know me better than anybody else, even my family.
Makes sense.
Most of my family I didn't live with for very long,
Yeah.
And it's just a place where my heart found home. So I was there 15 years before I moved back. It was wonderful, but I was getting to the age where I wanted to be closer to my family, and
That was in Stratford, right?
Yeah, and also the 24, like being there 24/7 was just getting to be a lot. I'm still very connected with him. I go visit a lot, quite a bit. And yeah, so that was life changing for me. And marriage was not even on the top 15 list. You know, I never thought I would get married, but obviously God had other plans. So yeah, and it's such that part of my life is such a small little snapshot, but I would do it all again in this heartbeat. Yeah.
How did you meet Alan?
We met online actually.
What drew you to online? Like
I wasn't looking for a relationship. I thought it would be nice to have, you know, a male friend that I could go to a wedding with or get together for lunch and just like, and his too. He was looking for friendship.
Yeah.
Because he'd been married for 30 years, so he was just looking for companionship the same way I was. And so, but once we met, and it was inevitable that we were gonna, you know, get married. So. Yeah, I'm very grateful, and I would do it all again. I certainly wasn't anticipating it only lasting 22 months before he died, but
yeah. And then you met.
And then I met Roger online the same way. But my relationship with Roger is totally different. Like, we're neither one of us are interested in marriage or living together, or we just want to spend time together when we can. And
good.
Because he was married for 52 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And
is he a widower? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and after we met, we realized because he lived in Windsor all his life, that we had mutual friends. He lived across the street from my mutual friend for 30 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but yeah. So I'm in a really good place right now. I like my relationship with Roger. I like my life outside of my relationship with Roger. You know, I feel like I have my own, and I'm living with nuns again. Yeah, I live in Windsor, on McEwen Street, and with two holy name sisters. One of whom I lived with when I was a nun, and that's a house I lived in when I was a. And so I feel like I've come kind of full circle. And one of the sisters has her sister lives with us, and she's blind and has disabilities.
Yeah.
So in exchange for room and board, I help with her a little bit, and you know, when they have to go, when they're gone away, then I take care of her and stuff.
Oh, that's nice. It's a great arrangement.
It is a great arrangement, and yeah, it's a wonderful place to be. And yeah, I feel like I'm in a really good place right now. So I'm going to be 70 in November, so
wow.
There we go.